Hi everyone, welcome back. Listening to a story is one of the most natural ways to learn a language. You don't need to study grammar rules right now. You don't even need to understand every single word. You just need to relax, listen, and let the words come to you naturally. And here's something interesting. Even if you listen to this story while you're falling asleep tonight, your brain doesn't just stop working. It keeps processing sound, rhythm, and meaning, even in those last few minutes before you drift off. So if your eyes get heavy while you listen, that's okay. Just let it happen. Today, I have a true story for you. It's slow, it's detailed, and it's a little bit emotional. So get comfortable, turn down the lights if you want to, and let's begin. This story is about a woman named Carol. Carol lived in a small town in the south of England, the kind of town with one bakery, one small church, and a market that opened only on Saturdays. She was 72 years old, and she had lived in the same house for almost 40 years. A small brick house with a blue front door and a garden that she loved more than almost anything else in the world. Carol lived alone. Her husband passed away 18 years ago. Her only son lived far away in Canada, and they spoke on the phone every Sunday evening. But even though Carol lived alone, she was not lonely. Not really. She had her garden. She had her cat, a gray and white cat named Whiskey, who slept most of the day in a patch of sunlight near the kitchen window. And every single morning, without exception, Carol made herself a good cup of tea and sat by that same window for exactly 15 minutes before starting her day. It was a simple life, a quiet life, and Carol liked it that way. Carol met Robert when she was 23 years old at a small dance held in the village hall one cold December evening. She almost didn't go that night. She remembered feeling tired, and it had started to rain just as she was getting ready. But her sister convinced her to go anyway, just for an hour, just to see people. Robert was standing near the drinks table, looking a little out of place, a little shy, holding a cup of tea instead of anything stronger. Carol always liked to tell people that she fell in love with him not because he was the most handsome man in the room, although she thought he was quite handsome, but because he was the only person there who asked her real questions. Not, "How are you?" but, "What's the best book you've read this year?" and, "Do you think it's strange that everyone here is dancing badly on purpose?" They talked for almost the entire evening. 3 years later, they were married. And for 34 years after that, they built the kind of life that doesn't look exciting from the outside. No big adventures, no dramatic stories, but felt, to both of them, like exactly enough. Carol still thought about that rainy December evening often. It was strange, she thought, how one small decision, going to a dance she almost skipped, could shape an entire life. One day, it was a Tuesday in early autumn, many years after that dance, many years after Robert was gone, Carol finished her tea, put on her light green coat, and walked to the end of her street to check her mailbox. This was part of her daily routine, too. She didn't get much mail these days, mostly just bills, sometimes a card from her son, and occasionally a flyer from the local shop advertising discounts on bread or milk. The sky was gray that day. Not stormy, just gray. The kind of gray that made the whole street look a little softer, a little quieter. The air was cold enough that Carol could see her breath, and dry leaves moved gently across the pavement as she walked. She reached her mailbox, a small metal box attached to a wooden post at the edge of her garden, and opened the little door. Inside, there was one single letter. Carol picked it up and immediately noticed something strange. The paper was old. Not just a little old, very old. The white color had faded into a soft yellow, and the edges of the envelope were slightly worn, almost soft, the way paper gets after being handled many, many times, or after sitting somewhere untouched for a very long time. The stamp was strange too. It wasn't a stamp Carol recognized from recent years. It looked like something from the past, a design she hadn't seen on an envelope in a long, long time. Carol turned the envelope over in her hands, and there, written in careful, familiar handwriting, was her own name, Carol Whitman. Her heart gave a small, confused jump. Something about this letter felt wrong. Not dangerous wrong, just impossible wrong. She looked closer, and that's when she noticed the postmark, the small official stamp that shows exactly when and where a letter was sent from the post office. Carol had seen thousands of postmarks in her life. She knew what they looked like. She knew how to read the date. She read it once. She read it again, thinking maybe her eyes were playing a trick on her in the gray afternoon light. The date on the postmark was from 20 years ago. Carol stood completely still in the middle of her front garden, the cold autumn air around her, the letter trembling slightly in her hand. Not because her hand was cold, but because something inside her chest had suddenly gone very tight. 20 years. This letter had been sent from a post office 20 years ago. And somehow, after 2 full decades, it had finally arrived at her door. Today, on an ordinary gray Tuesday. Carol didn't open it right there in the garden. She couldn't. Her legs felt strange, a little unsteady, so she walked back inside, closed the blue front door behind her, and went straight into her small kitchen. She sat down at the kitchen table, the same wooden table where she had eaten breakfast every morning for almost 40 years, and placed the letter carefully in front of her. Her hands were shaking now, just slightly. She looked at the handwriting on the envelope again, more carefully this time, and within a few seconds, she knew exactly whose handwriting it was. It was her husband's handwriting. His name was Robert Whitman. Robert had been gone for 18 years, but this letter had been sent while he was still alive, 2 years before he died. Carol's heart was beating fast now, faster than it had beaten in a long time. She sat there for almost a full minute, just looking at the envelope, not moving, not opening it. Finally, she picked it up. She opened it slowly, very, very slowly, as if the paper might break, as if the whole moment might disappear if she moved too quickly. Inside, there was a single page, folded carefully in half. Robert's handwriting filled the page from top to bottom. Carol unfolded it completely, took a breath, and began to read. My dear Carol, I'm writing this from the train station. I'm going on a short business trip, just 3 days, and I already miss you, even though I only left the house 1 hour ago. I know that's silly. You'll probably laugh when you read this, but I wanted to write down something important, something I don't say often enough out loud. Thank you. Thank you for choosing this simple life with me. Thank you for the garden, for the tea every morning, for the quiet Sunday afternoons. I know some people want big houses, big trips, big excitement, but I don't need any of that. I just need this. I just need you and our small, quiet life together. I'll be home Friday evening. Save me a cup of tea. All my love, always, Robert. Carol read the letter once, then she read it again, then a third time. By the third time, tears were falling freely down her face. Not loud crying, just quiet tears. The kind that come when something touches a very old, very deep part of the heart. These were not simple sad tears. They were something more complicated than that. They were happy and sad at exactly the same time. She was crying because she missed him deeply, the way she missed him every single day. But she was also crying because, for just a few minutes, it felt like Robert was speaking to her again, in his own voice, in his own handwriting, after 18 years of silence. Carol sat at that kitchen table for a long time. Whiskey the cat came and sat near her feet, as if he understood, somehow, that something important was happening. Eventually, Carol wiped her eyes, took a deep breath, and picked up her telephone. She wanted to understand how this was possible. How does a letter travel for 20 years before it arrives? She called the local post office. A young man answered, polite, a little unsure of himself, clearly not used to unusual questions like this one. "I'm sorry," he said, once Carol had explained the basic situation. "Did you say 20 years? On the postmark?" "Yes," Carol said. 20 years. I've checked it 3 times now, just to be sure." There was a short silence on the line. Carol could hear him typing something on a keyboard, and then a pause, and then his voice again, a little more careful this time. "That's actually not impossible," he said slowly. "It's rare, very, very rare, but it's not impossible." Carol explained everything once more, slower this time, describing the old envelope, the soft yellowed paper, the strange old-fashioned stamp, the date that had made absolutely no sense to her at first. The young man listened carefully, and then he explained something that Carol had never known before. "Sometimes," he said, "during building renovations, especially in old post office buildings, letters get lost. They fall behind old walls. They get stuck inside broken sorting machines. Sometimes a machine breaks down for just a moment, and one single letter falls into a space between 2 walls, and nobody ever notices. It happens more often than people think, especially with very old buildings." He told Carol that the post office had recently finished renovating an old sorting building nearby, a building that had been used for mail sorting for almost 100 years before it was finally closed and rebuilt. During the renovation, workers found a box hidden inside a wall. Inside that box were dozens of old, undelivered letters. Some were decades old. Nobody could say for certain how they ended up there, or why, or when exactly. Maybe a machine broke. Maybe, a long time ago, someone made a small mistake and simply never noticed. The letters, once found, were quietly delivered, one by one, to whatever addresses were still valid. Carol's letter was one of them. She thanked the young man for his patience and hung up the phone. Then she sat in her kitchen for a long, long time, simply holding the letter in her hands, feeling the old paper between her fingers. Later that afternoon, almost without thinking, Carol picked up the phone again and called her son in Canada. It wasn't their usual Sunday call. This was a Tuesday, and he sounded a little surprised to hear from her. "Mom, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine," Carol said. And then, because she didn't quite know how to explain it any other way, she simply told him the whole story, start to finish. The mailbox, the old envelope, the impossible date, her father's handwriting. Her son was quiet for a moment on the other end of the line. Then he said, softly, "That sounds like something from a film, Mom." "I know," Carol said, and she found herself smiling, even though her eyes were still a little wet. "I know it does." They talked for almost half an hour, longer than their usual calls. Her son asked what the letter said, and Carol read him a few lines, her voice catching slightly on the words, "Thank you for choosing this simple life with me." Neither of them said very much after that. They didn't need to. That evening, Carol did something very simple. She made a cup of tea, exactly the same way she always made it, the way she had made it every single day for years. She carried it to her armchair by the window, sat down, and read the letter one more time, slowly, by the soft light of her table lamp. And as she read it for what must have been the 5th or 6th time that day, she realized something important. Robert's words in that letter were not new information to her. She always knew he loved their simple life. She always knew he was grateful for the small, quiet things, the tea, the garden, the Sunday mornings. He had told her many times, in many small ways, over 34 years of marriage. But somehow, reading these exact words again, in his own handwriting, after 18 years without him, it felt different. It felt like hearing his voice one more time, clear and close, as if no time had passed at all. Carol decided that same evening to keep the letters safe. She found a small wooden box in her bedroom closet, a box that had belonged to her grandmother, and she placed the letter carefully inside it, next to a few old photographs and Robert's old wristwatch. She put the box on the small table beside her bed, and every year, on the same date the letter finally arrived, Carol takes it out of the box and reads it again. Just once, sitting in the same armchair with the same cup of tea, by the same soft light. It reminds her every single time that love doesn't always need big, dramatic moments to be real. Sometimes, love is simply a cup of tea, a quiet Sunday morning, someone who notices the small things and says thank you for them. So, that's the story of Carol's letter, 20 years late, but somehow it arrived exactly when she needed it most. If you understood most of this story, congratulations! Your English listening is improving, even if you don't notice it happening. I'd love to know, what's one small, simple thing in your life that makes you happy, the way Carol's cup of tea made her happy? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story kept you company tonight, please subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it helps more people find calm, gentle stories like this one. Sleep well, or have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. See you in the next story.